Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wellness Wednesday. I'm a little bit late this morning. I was having a little bit of technical difficulty. I thought I was ready to go. And then when I went to hit the button, I realized that my face was like right up here and not back here. And I wasn't sure why. So I had to kind of start the process over. It was a little scary. Not sure what happened there. And I'm also not sure there we go. I'm not sure what's going on with my lighting either. So, good morning. If you are just stumbling on my page, my name is Donna. I'm a mom, a nana, a girlfriend, a wellness advocate, runner, jazzerciser. I usually look like this in the morning when you see me on Wednesdays because I'm getting ready to do some type of workout after I get done. I'm also I'm studying for my Master of Science in Clinical Mental Health Counseling. And I have lived a lifelong battle with what was termed as functional anxiety and depression, and learned a lot in that process of entering recovery, and think it's always important to share because I believe in pure wisdom, and I believe that as we share tips and tricks, that we can help each other and we can learn to do better in general. So I'm a firm believer in pure wisdom, and I just don't know what's up with my lights this morning. Y'all, I'm still messing around here. I'm telling you some weird things today. Oh, no, we don't like that light. That might be a little bit better. Maybe. I don't think so. All right. In any case, so if you're here, let me know you're here. If you don't see this afterwards, hit hashtag replay in the comments, or drop a comment or a question or whatever. Sometimes Facebook doesn't show me all the things, so I don't always see things while I'm on live. And if that's the case, then I will respond to you afterwards. I promise I'm not ignoring you. All right, so with that said, another thing I want to mention while I'm here is if you are someone that's been following me for a while, Facebook has changed the way they're handling live videos. So these live videos are now only going to be available for, good morning. These live videos are now only going to be available for 30 days. So I did some hemming and hawing trying to figure out what was the best way to make sure you all still had access. And what I'm currently doing is downloading all of the previous Wellness Wednesday videos so that I have the content before Facebook deletes it. And then I'm going to upload them all to a YouTube channel so that once they are more than 30 days old, I can refer you to that YouTube channel in case it's something you want to go back to, or you decide, maybe you're new to the page and you decide you want to go back and watch all of these. So that's what's going on there. So stay tuned for more information on that. But today's topic was, of course, last week we talked about why we avoid what's good for us. And today's topic is inspired by an article that I read a long time ago in the Reader's Digest. And when I say Reader's Digest, I mean the magazine that came in the mail that my grandmother subscribed to for me, that sat on the back of the toilet in the bathroom, kind of before phones were a heavy duty thing or you could do much with them. So yes, we're talking a long time ago. It was inspired by this article I read a long time ago called "Does Multitasking Make You Stupid?" And subsequently, when I was studying for my bachelor's degree, this is something that echoed in my head. So I actually did an entire paper on this and what the cognitive impacts of multitasking were. And then it's a subject that still seems to come up regularly. So here we go. We're going to talk about multitasking a little bit. And this is actually a subject, as I started to dig into this to kind of refresh my information, I found that this is probably a subject we could talk about for a couple of episodes. But let's talk about multitasking and whether or not it makes us stupid. So the best definition I've ever seen of multitasking, and I know I have it somewhere here. I don't remember which article it came from that I was reading, is the multitasking is the art of distracting yourself from two things you'd rather not be doing by doing them simultaneously. And I thought, you know what? That's pretty much spot on whether we realize it or not. So my question to you would be, how many tabs do you have open right now? Or when is the last time you did more than one thing at a time? Which for most of us was about 30 seconds ago, right? I always have multiple tabs open. And some of that isn't as much multitasking as sometimes it is my brain just processing things in the background. but I am guilty of multitasking to the hilt, and I've seen where it can really make you stupid. And that's a harsh term. But there is evidence that it actually reduces your IQ, at least temporarily, while you're in the act. So let's talk about that a little bit more. First of all, let me give you some examples of some really easy examples of when I was trying to do 2 or more things at once and it didn't work out so well for me. For example, when I was still working in my previous career and I sent a thank you text with a kissy face to a board member that was actually intended for my boyfriend because I was doing too many things at once and not paying attention to the text thread that I was in. And that board member came back and was like, what's up with that? And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And of course, I didn't know this until a couple hours later. And I said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. That was not intended for you. And because of the kissy face, he's like, I sure as hell hope not. And oh my gosh, it was awful. So that's one example. Another example is that I'm very much a creature of habit. So if you find things that I normally always put in the same place and they're in random places, like the pre-workout that Eric found in the glass cabinet instead of in the pantry yesterday, that means I'm distracted. I'm doing too many things at once because I'm very much a creature of habit. So even when I'm in that autonomous state, I still put things where I always put them. So when they're not where I always put them, it means something else was going on because I'm very much a creature of habit. And my best story, I think, ever, and I'm sure there's other ones that I'm not remembering, but a situation that I affectionately refer to as my toilet bounce. And it was not funny at the time, but it is hilariously funny now, because I walked into the bathroom with my nose stuck in my phone one night and didn't turn on the light in the bathroom. And subsequently, when I went to sit down, and that may be more information than any of y'all ever wanted about me, but hey, I'm human. We all do that thing. When I went to sit down, I didn't turn on any lights. I had my nose stuck in my phone, and I was not aligned with the toilet and ended up coming down next to it and literally bouncing my rib cage off of the side of the toilet because I actually hit the floor instead of the toilet. And I just remember being very thankful and still very thankful that I didn't do it on the other side in between the toilet and the bathtub, because that might have been a much bigger injury than what it was. But basically I went to sit down and there was nothing there. So I dropped further and my whole right side, this whole side of my body was bam, right into the side of the toilet. So these are examples, these are very obvious examples of where multitasking or being distracted can get us into some real trouble. Again, there's a Reader's Digest article I read years ago, and I tried very hard before I put this together to find it, but it is a very old article, and it was called Does Multitasking Make You Stupid? And that article really stuck to me. And then I wrote a paper in 2015 for my cognitive psychology class. See, it was applicable to explain the cognitive impacts of multitasking. And then when I did go looking, Reader's Digest now has an online article called What is Monotasking and Why It's Better for You, which was just kind of a shorter, less involved version of the same thing. And I can post it in the comments for you if you'd like. Hey, Miss Stacy, when it's available, or when I get done. So cattle dog, see, multitasking, trying to say hi and read my notes at the same time doesn't work. And then the last story I have on this subject, on the subject of monotasking, before I really dig in, is when I had to stop by Cattle Dogs to use the bathroom on a run one morning. And this was my first time into Cattle Dogs, and I felt so bad because I know I scared the hell out of the woman. I had sweat pouring off of me. It was the first time I'd ever been to the Hernando Cattle Dogs. I had sweat pouring off of me. I had to go to the bathroom, and I stopped in there, and I had a desperate look on my face, and she looked scared, but she let me use the bathroom. So I promised to come back later and patronize the store, and I did. I got done with my run. I changed my clothes. I grabbed a magazine that I'd been wanting to read for a while that I'd been ignoring, and I went back down to Cattle Dogs, and I got myself some breakfast and a cup of coffee. And I sat, which part of the story do you remember, Stacy? The toilet bounce or the Cattle Dogs part? And I sat there outside of this Cattle Dogs. It was when they were still fairly new. And I read the magazine. and I ate my breakfast, and I didn't do anything else. I didn't look at my phone. I didn't text anybody. I didn't carry on conversations. I just sat there and I read my magazine, and it was the most incredible thing. And I could not remember at that time, when was the last time I did just one thing without trying to do other things in the process. All right, so enough stories. Let's talk, why do we do this? Why do we multitask when it evidently doesn't work, right? So let's talk about the nerd facts first. Let's find out what science says about multitasking. Good morning, Captain Charlie. Let's find out what science says about, I love my nerd facts, what the science says about multitasking. Science says that the brain doesn't actually multitask. It switches quickly between tasks like tabs or windows. And that constant switching burns energy, increases mistakes, and reduces retention. So think about that for a minute. Studies show that it can reduce your IQ temporarily by as much as 10 points on average, which is equivalent to missing a night's sleep. And you know how you function after you've missed a night's sleep versus before, right? And that 40% of our actual productivity is lost in that switching back and forth between tasks. That's crazy, but I can attest to it. Having been in a career that required a lot of multitasking, some of the stuff as I was reading it and as I was refreshing my memory on it, I was like, oh yeah, been there. So 40% of our brain productivity is lost in the switch, which means if we're multitasking and if we're at the high end of the multitasking, we're only operating at about 60%. And even the opportunity, there's a blog here where Forbes reported that even the opportunity to switch tasks to multitask can actually lower our brain function. So it also takes an average of 15 to 20 minutes to regain complete focus. And I can attest that this is true because in my previous career, I could do a lot of things at once. It felt like I was doing a lot of things at once. I could get a lot accomplished in a day, and it felt like I was frequently doing many of those at the same time. And that's part of the problem. There's a little fly in here. That's part of the problem, is that what we mean when we say we want somebody who can multitask versus what that actually looks like are not the same thing. But I can remember this average of 15 to 20 minutes to regain complete focus. That's absolutely true, because I would hum along quite nicely until I reached a point, good morning, Miss Kayla, where just the right phone call interrupted me, or I got like the third or fourth interruption. I would be humming along great, getting all the things done. I probably looked like an octopus the way my hands and my brain and my window tabs were flying. And then all of a sudden I would just hit a wall and I would be like, where was I? Or somebody would ask me a question that required me to make a decision, and I would be like, I just deer in headlights look. And this, I can attest to you, is that evidence of multitasking just reaching a point where you lose time and you lose ability and you lose clarity and focus. So the other thing another nerd fact about multitasking is that it keeps your nervous system on alert. And essentially that means that you are in a continuous fight, flight, and yes, freeze response. And what I just told you was an example of where you might freeze. You might be humming along quite nicely, getting all the things done, thinking you're accomplishing everything, more importantly, thinking you're accomplishing it all at once. And then something happened that just all of a sudden your brain's like, what? And it takes a few minutes to orient yourself, answer the question, make the decision, whatever the case may be. Exactly, Kayla. And then and you're just kind of in that freeze space. So multitasking keeps your nervous system in this continuous state, which increases, Kayla, I know you're going to love this part, cortisol production, because she and I were just talking about that yesterday. It leads to mental clutter. It reduces productivity. It contributes to decision fatigue. That's exactly what I was just talking about. And then that increasing feeling like nothing ever gets done, because for some reason, no matter how much we try to do it once or how much we get done in a day, we always feel like we're not getting enough done. And that leads to what? Well, exactly the reason that I ended up going back to school and leaving my job, which is burnout. But first, before you get to burnout, you get to more procrastination and stress. So as you can see, there are a lot of negative effects of multitasking or attempting to multitask. And here's a kicker that this was new information for me. Most of this I already knew from my previous research, but this one was a kicker for me. High multitaskers have been shown to have more social and relationship problems, which if you think about it, the example that was given was, have you ever been on the phone with somebody while they're watching TV or scrolling Facebook or texting at the same time or working at the same time? And then you might begin, if you think about that and you think about how those conversations go, you might begin to understand why the high level multitaskers have more social problems. So why do we do this? Why do we do this, right? Well, we do it because sometimes it seems like it works. It works when things are habitual or automatic and nothing new is introduced or interrupted. Kayla, I think I know what you said, shocker too, but I'm not 100% sure. So for me, after 21 years in my previous career, there were certain things that were just kind of automatic, which meant that they were getting done even if I got a few interruptions. And those are things, like we can fold laundry and we can listen to music at the same time. Folding laundry is not really a cognitive task. It's something we've done over and over and over again. So it's muscle memory. It's more of just an automatic thing. We can listen to music, because unless we're listening to music because we're trying to memorize the lyrics, we're probably, again, not really a cognitive task. So we continue to multitask because we think it works. And it's reinforced sometimes by the fact that it seems to, somebody says, oh, you're an excellent multitasker. And we're like, oh, cool, watch me. I can do more. Hold my beer. So we do it because sometimes it works. And when things are habitual or automatic and nothing new is introduced and nothing interrupts us, we feel like we are more in control because of what we're able to accomplish. We also do this because of stimulation, because switching to new tasks, there's a novelty there, right? Anytime you start something new. So it provides stimulation. Task switching feeds the short attention span, which a lot of us have. And it may even there's studies that show it may even release dopamine that reinforces that behavior. So if we're starting new things all the time, right? Then we're getting a constant dopamine release that feeds that habit. And then, of course, one of the reasons we do it is because employers think that they need multitaskers. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute, but basically they think they need multitaskers, but they may not actually multitasking. They may not be terming what they want correctly. They may want somebody that knows how to prioritize projects, where it comes out looking more like they want somebody that can do a bunch of things at once. So, but we'll dig more into that in a minute. And then mostly because society demands it, because technology has enabled it. We have become an impatient society, an impatient culture, and we want answers right now. We are trying to act like computers and we expect others to do the same. But we're not. It's actually suggested that computers don't even do this. That their operating systems actually direct programs to toggle between tasks. But it's just that it's done at such a fast speed that it looks and feels simultaneous. And that's from a podcast called Freakonomics. So technology enables this. And I mentioned this in one of my last episodes. Once upon a time, we would call a business and leave a message. And we would give them, we call them on Monday. If we didn't hear back from them Friday, we might call back, right? But because of technology, because of texting, because of email, because of all this instantaneous response, we are now spoiled. We expect answers immediately. And therefore, those of us who work in jobs where we're expected to be multitaskers are also expected to respond immediately. So a lot of the reasons that we keep doing this, even though there's proof that it doesn't work, is because technology and our society demands it and enables it. We think it's only going to take 1 second. The truth of the matter is we feel like we're sitting in an office, we're working on something important that needs all of our attention. We need to see what our team's doing. We need to check on this. And it's all at our fingertips. We can do it just with the touch of a button. But it still takes, even though might not feel like it, it takes our brain that much longer to circle back around to what we're working on and actually regain its focus to keep going. So it doesn't work, but there's a lot of reasons that feed the reasons that we keep doing it. So how do we stop? We talked about the science. We talked about why we do it. How do we stop in this high-paced, high technology environment? How do we stop multitasking? We prioritize instead, and can we even do it really? But we prioritize instead of trying to do it all at once. And I'll have a little quick story about this too. So we prioritize instead of trying to do it all at once. And in reality, most employers, when they say they want somebody that can multitask, that's what they mean. They want somebody that knows how to prioritize. They can look at 3 projects and their due dates and the emphasis on each one and go, okay, this is the one that needs to be done first. And that's the one that gets all the attention. That's not multitasking. That's prioritizing. Batching, also known as time blocking, also known as what Reader's Digest now refers to in their current article as monotasking, or the 20-minute rule. So what does that mean? This is a huge way to stop, and this is how I kind of stopped. Listen, I still multitask. There's actually evidence that shows that when we do this, it kind of rewires our brain. So there's still, I'm never going to sit and just watch TV without my phone in my hand. I probably should, unless my grandson's here and we're actually watching a movie. I might get through the main parts of a TV show, because it's rare that I watch TV anyway. But I might get through the main parts of a TV show, but I'm still picking up my phone during that commercial. It's just a fact. But we can time batch. And this is how most of it started for me. As I had a mentor that taught me time blocking, and time blocking was extremely overwhelming to me at first. Why? Because I didn't feel like I was in control of any of my time, because I felt like, well, I could write in that I was going to do this, but what if this happened? And what if this happened? And what if this? I was multitasking before I even got it on the stinking calendar. Okay. So batching or time blocking or monotasking, is what a lot of people do. And there's a lot of webinars and a lot of classes that teach this now. And it's basically what we did before we had all these electronics to distract us, right? So what's the 20-minute rule? The 20-minute rule is to dedicate 20-minute chunks to your task before switching. This is recommended by a cognitive scientist at Stanford. So these are 20-minute chunks, and that's for those of us with really short attention spans who don't feel like we can work on more on one thing for longer than 20 minutes. So we start out with 20-minute time chunks, and we take, my phone's up here because I'm talking to you on it. We take our phone and we shut off the notifications and we shut everything off so that we can set it aside and not be distracted during that 20 minutes. The Reader's Digest monotasking article says that 20 minutes isn't enough for the deep work. And there's a lot of talk about deep work right now. And that's where we really get in and we're really focusing on that one thing, which means we're doing it well and we're not making mistakes, because there's a lot of mistakes that happen when we're jumping back and forth between tasks all the time. So to do the deep work, the monotasking article talks about needing 2 to 4 hours with no interruptions. And I can tell you definitively that when I started school and I'm working from home and I'm running an online activewear business from home, that the first thing I learned was that I had to figure out how to time block, even if it intimidated the crap out of me. And the problem was that I was trying to time block a whole week out instead of one day at a time. And that's where I was getting so intimidated. So what this involves is time blocking. Whether you're doing it on paper or however you're doing it, it's setting aside, like for that priority project, we talked about that prioritization. It's setting aside that main product that needs to be done, setting aside specific time where all you're working on is that. I have friends who get very upset with me because they call me and they always go straight to voicemail. Doesn't matter what time of day. If they call me, they're going straight to voicemail. You know why? Because if I didn't have my notifications shut off on my phone, I would get absolutely zero zilch done all day long because my phone is constantly going off. So I have to shut off those notifications. And that's what I explain to them when they call back. I actually had one that quite hilariously sung to me about why they kept getting sent to voicemail about a week ago. And it was hilarious. And it was somebody I'd already explained this to. My phone is always on Do Not Disturb, probably 99% of the time. And I have 2 people that are set on emergency bypass so that if they call me, which is rare, it'll ring through because they never call me, which means if they do, it's probably an emergency. And they know that, so they're not going to call me because they know that I'm going to have a heart attack when I see them calling my phone anyway. So the time blocking means you've got to put the phone away. You have to get rid of the distractions. Turn the volume off on your computer so you can't hear all the dings, all the email dings and all the messenger dings and all the Teams dings and all that. And then you can actually have control over your environment and focus on that one project. Get rid of all those distractions. And the other thing about stopping this multitasking and doing this time blocking is to schedule the things that need the most focus during what we know to be our peak performance time. I have a couple of different peak performance times during the day. Mid-afternoon, if I'm not having an afternoon slump where I need some extra caffeine. Mid-afternoon, good morning, Miss Billy, to late afternoon is a sweet spot for me where I get a lot accomplished. If I end up pushing through and doing overnight work on a paper, 10 o'clock, if I'm still awake and I'm still plugging away at it at 10 o'clock, I hit like a 2 or 3 hour sweet spot right there where I'm like, all of a sudden, all the ideas start flowing. And if I'm up, I'm now up until 2 because I'm not going to be able to settle that back down. So everybody has at least one time of day where they're more productive. They're able to focus better. For some people, it's first thing in the morning. For some people, it's that afternoon space after they've gotten all the morning things done. But schedule the things that need your biggest attention in that peak performance time and shut off all the distractions so that you're not trying to do multiple things at once. And I just remembered something I was looking for, and now I don't know if I can find it. Hang on just a second. Yeah, I'm not going to find it. I thought I had it open, and I couldn't remember earlier what exactly it was I was looking for, and now I can't find it. But workplaces are slowly coming around to this because you might be looking at me and you might be thinking, well, Donna, the whole reason I multitask like a fool is because my work requires me to do it, and now I can't stop. Workplaces are starting to come around. I had a LinkedIn article. See, it is here. I have it here. No, I don't have it here. I had a LinkedIn article I thought I had open that talks about the different, let me see if I can find it. I know I'm holding you guys a little bit long today. This is important information. So I found an article that talks about how businesses are starting to come around a little bit on this to stop emphasizing the multitasking so much because they know they're losing productivity. Science is showing over and over and over again that we are less productive when we try to multitask. I did have it open and I closed it. When we try to multitask, and that it is a myth that it makes us more efficient or more productive. So let me see. I just opened up the article and I'm trying to find what I'm looking for here. Here it is. So here's how workplaces are starting to turn focus into success so that you're not having to multitask. The Microsoft Japan experimented with a 4-day work week and reported a 40% increase in productivity. Because this initiative, not because they were getting an extra day off a week, but this initiative forced employees to focus on efficiency and prioritize tasks, not do them all at once, thereby reducing the time spent on unproductive multitasking. Creative fields. Author J.K. Rowling is a proponent of deep work, and is known for checking into a hotel to finish her books. In this case, she famously checked into a hotel to finish her Harry Potter series, so that she could be free of the distractions of home and daily life so that she could focus on finishing the job. Cornell University conducted a study where students were encouraged to turn off their digital devices and focus solely on lectures. What? The students who participated showed a significant improvement in grades and comprehension of the material. An Australian software company implements ship it days, where employees are given 24 hours to work on a project of their choice without interruptions. I wouldn't know how that feels to spend 24 hours working on one thing with no interruptions, even now. but especially not when I was working. Employees are given 24 hours to work on a project of their choice without interruptions, and this initiative has led to the development of new product features and innovations. So this is just, we've got legal profession. Many law firms have introduced no interruption zones and times, allowing attorneys to engage in deep work. This has resulted in more thorough case preparations and improved success rates in court. And of course, in the healthcare industry, the Cleveland Clinic has implemented strict policies limiting multitasking during medical procedures and patient consultations. This approach has improved patient care quality and reduced procedural errors. Isn't that amazing? Isn't it amazing what we can do and how much better we can do it when we stop trying to do too many things at once, when we stop trying to do things with constant interruptions, and when we actually focus on what we're doing. So you start working on it, whether it's at home in a couple hours a day, you have coworkers, it's okay to be like, hey, I have this really important project for the boss and I need a couple hours to focus on it. So can you answer the phone? It of course depends on your work environment, but you can be much more productive and you can produce much higher quality work if you're not multitasking. And that goes for at home too. So I'm going to wrap this up because I know and I know that was a lot of information. I know this has been kind of long this morning. I have a challenge for you. I challenge you because we have all gotten to the point where we are all multitaskers. Whether we know we suck at it or not, we're all doing it. I challenge you to choose one time this week to do only one thing. So 20 minutes, make the time to do only one thing during that time. Notice the difference in your focus. Notice the results, what happens before and what happens after, and the stress levels, and drop a comment. Send me a message. Let us know how that felt to do just that one thing at that one time. That's one of the reasons I like meditation so much, is because it forces me to just focus on one thing for 5 minutes. So my challenge to you again is choose one time this week to do only one thing. That means even if you're watching TV and you're not picking up your phone or having a conversation or reading a book or just watching TV, whatever it looks like for you, choose time this week to do only one thing. And then notice and let me know what you learn about the difference in focus and the results and the stress levels. And then remember this as you go forward. At the end of our lives, no one is going to remember how quickly we respond to the emails or the texts. So all that extra stress, all that fight, flight, or freeze, all of that extra cortisol, it's not really worth it, because nobody's going to be like, oh, she was such a great person. She answered my text so quickly. No one is going to remember that. And you don't need to do it all at once. Another thing to remember that I'm going to remind you of is you don't need to do it all at once. And just because you think you can doesn't mean you should. Slowing down does not mean you're falling behind. It means that you are taking the time to put the real focus on the task at hand. And remember always, there is peace in the pause. For my believers, there's a reason that one of the verses in the Bible is to be still and wait, because sometimes the peace is in the pause. We need to slow down. We need to focus on one thing, and we can just be that much better at everything for it. So if you found this helpful, I know it was a lot of information. If you found this helpful or you think someone else will, please share. Not sure yet what next topic's going to be. I'm going to toss it around a little bit, but I would love to hear from you on what it's like and what it feels like to try to focus on just one thing for a tiny little bit this week. Let me know. Let me know how that works for you. Let me know if anything in here helped you. And in the meantime, I hope you all have a fabulous week. And as always, be well.